Hey friends, Sean from Draft Therapy here, and on today's review for you, it's a bourbon and chocolate double whammy. Bourbon Barrel Aged Chocolate Expedition Stout is a 13.4% Bourbon Barrel Aged Russian Imperial Stout from Bell's Brewery in Comstock, Michigan. You may have seen my Michigan Must Stop Brewery videos from Kalamazoo, and if you haven't yet, you gotta go check those out. But while John and I were out that way, we decided to pick up a couple limited beers from Bell's General Store. Orange Hearted being one of them, and the other was this beer, that's Bourbon Barrel Aged Chocolate Expedition Stout. I wasn't quite sure when I saw Bell's social media post about this that I'd actually be able to get my hands on it to try it, but now that I have my hot little hands on it, I'm excited to check it out. So let's get a look at it, but first I'd like to thank my executive producers, Brian Kramer, David Jeffries, Vinny Cat, and Cam Freeman for helping to bring this review to you today. If you'd like to become a producer, help out the channel, or maybe just throw me a couple bucks to buy me a beer, take a look at my Patreon at patreon.drafttherapy.com, where you can get early access to these videos and a few other special perks that are available only to patrons and the satisfaction of knowing that you helped me out. So let's take a look at the label here. On the top, we have the black Bell's cap with the 3 bells on it. That's their logo, if you're not familiar. On the front, we have that same logo. It says Bell's with the 3 bells on it. Underneath that, it says Bourbon Barrel Aged Chocolate Expedition Stout. It's a Russian Imperial Stout aged in bourbon barrels with chocolate. Then we have the compass, which is typical of what you would see on the Bell's Expedition Stout label. On the back here, it says Expedition Stout has traveled all around the world, but this adventure takes it to new chocolatey places. After being aged in barrels for 14 months, cocoa nibs are added to our classic stout for deeper and richer chocolatey aromas. Underneath that is all the deposit information, and it says alcohol, 13.4% by volume. Shelf life is unlimited. This was packaged on January 9th, 2021. We have the independent craft beer logo, which I don't know if that pertains to Bell's anymore, but regardless, underneath that, it says bellsbeer.com. So we're going to go ahead and crack this. We're going to use our Draft Therapy Tiku glass. Let's go ahead and crack this and put a nose on it. Set that cap to the side there. Whoa, I mean, this smells like, so far it smells like barrel-aged Imperial Expedition Stout, right? It's got those really big bourbon characteristics to it. It's got a nice bourbon barrel characteristic. You get the bourbon out of it. You get a little bit of a oaky aroma. Let's go ahead and pour it. Actually, a lot of oak. Coming out super black. Really has a thick look to the pour itself. But again, coming really dark out of the bottle. I didn't get too aggressive on the pour here, so we've only got about a half a finger on it, but it's got a nice dark coffee colored head. It's almost like even darker than coffee. Really compact bubbles across the top, as you can see. If we hold it up to the light here, I mean, what is there to say about that? It looks black to me, looks black to you. Not seeing my hands through it. Let's put a nose on it. Now I'm getting a little bit more of a cocoa, rich, dark chocolate aroma on top of all that bourbon, the bourbon barrel characteristic. That oakiness, that kind of almost falls down a little bit on the glass. I'm getting a lot more chocolate than I didn't get any chocolate on the nose out of the bottle, but on here it's like big time chocolate. I'm ready to try it out. Cheers. We always talk about the mouthfeel first here, and that's for good reason. This one has a great mouthfeel to it. It's very much on the heavy end, but it's not syrupy. It's thick, but it's not syrupy. It holds onto your tongue, but it doesn't feel like it's just like molasses moving over your tongue. It has a nice heavy mouthfeel to it. Let's talk about the flavor. While I felt like out of the nose, the bourbon barrel and oaky characteristic were very strong. On the flavor, on the upfront, you get this nice, rich, decadent, kind of chocolatey, fudgy flavor, dark chocolate, like really rich. And then on the swallow, what you get, that's when the bourbon characteristic comes through. It has a nice, you get a little bit of a bourbon taste, but you also get that barrel kind of characteristic. You get a little bit of an oakiness, you get a little bit of a, just kind of a sweet bourbon flavor on the whole kind of deal. It just ties it up with a nice bow. Now, it's been a while since I've had the bourbon barrel aged Expedition Stout, but I can say from memory, this does have a lot more of a chocolatey aroma, or I'm sorry, a chocolatey flavor, which this is the, the chocolate version of it, right? It's the bourbon barrel aged chocolate Expedition Stout, so that makes a lot of sense. The chocolate is in there, and it has a nice, it's very much on the upfront. It adds a nice kind of sweetness, it's like a dark chocolate too, though. So it's a little bit of a sweet kind of chocolate, but it's a lot more of a dark, rich chocolate. I think that the sweetness that I'm getting is a lot more on the finish, a lot more on that kind of bourbony note that adds that sweetness to it. If I kind of swish it around, if I hold it in my mouth just a little bit too long, then a bit of a boozy characteristic comes up. That's where it starts to kind of, you get a little bit of a burn to it, just a little bit of a boozy burn, a little bit of a booziness kind of escapes through your nose, but it doesn't burn on the swallow. There's no burn in my chest. There's no burn in my throat like a boozy burn. But that's only if I held on to it too long, if I kind of swished it around too long. If I just kind of intake, do a little bit of a draw, swallow, again, you're getting a nice kind of chocolate characteristic right up front. It is rich, it is dark, it is that really nice, just on the edge of being bitter chocolate, but it's just a little bit on top. There's a sweetness up front, but it gets to be like really super fudgy, really thick, dark, rich chocolate on the swallow as it passes over your tongue and it hits the back of your tongue and goes down. That's when that kind of bourbon characteristic comes through. It's like a bourbon sweetness. It's not again, it's unless you swish it around, you're not getting like a boozy bourbon, but it's more of that rich kind of sweet bourbon characteristic that comes through. If you are a bourbon barrel aged stout fan, obviously this is a no-brainer. It has that nice chocolatey note to it, but it also has just enough of a hit of bourbon kind of barrel characteristic with that oakiness that comes through that really satisfies that kind of part of your brain. But because it has that nice rich chocolatey flavor up front, it's a real satisfier right there too. I don't know if it's something that you really need to run out and reach out for, because it's similar to barrel aged Expedition Stout, just missing that chocolate note. So if you could really think in the most simplistic terms of just that bourbon barrel aged Expedition Stout with just the chocolate, just the chocolate on top of it, I guess that's pretty much what you're getting. I don't know if you need to rush out to Kalamazoo if this is not going to be distributed, which I don't think it is, but you don't need to rush out to Kalamazoo to get it. It's good, but I don't know if it's worth, like, depending on how far you live from it, I don't know if it's really worth like a huge trip. But if you see it in the store, it's definitely one to pick up and try. It's really good, but again, I just don't know if it's something that you need to rush out and get. But if you are into the whole, Russian bourbon barrel aged imperial stout, it's a nice one to try that's just a little bit different from that. Again, I don't know if you need to rush out across the state to get it, but if it does make its way out to stores, it's definitely one that I would suggest picking up, just to give it a try, just so you can see how it's different than an old favorite like the bourbon barrel aged Russian imperial stout. All right, friends, that has been bourbon barrel aged chocolate Expedition Stout from Bell's. Have you had this beer, or are there other, just general store releases that you wanted to check out that you didn't get a chance to try? Let me know what they were in the comments down below while you're down there. If you like beer, you might want to subscribe and click that bell. I'm here talking about beer twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's all for free for viewers just like you, and you might miss your newest favorite if you're not subscribed and get those notifications. So until next time, I'm Sean from Draft Therapy. Thanks for stopping by. Remember, drink craft beer, support your local breweries, and most importantly, don't forget to treat yourself to a little draft therapy. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Cheers.